Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 2 of the No Spoon Describes the Album series. We encourage you to go check out the first one if you missed it. I think we're picking up with track number 4, Dance With Me.
Yeah,
Which
correct.
is about a disco in outer space.
Yeah. A lot of people didn't guess that one.
Yeah.
We're going sci-fi really quick. Murder mystery, straight sci-fi.
So as you may remember from the first part, Paul doesn't really know much at all what the album is about.
I make it up as I go along.
He feels the album.
So
He plays
feels
the out of some drums, am I right?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
feel it emotionally. I may not know the whole story, but I can feel it. Feel it in my loins.
So this experience is just as much educational for him as it is for you viewers at home. So, okay, so dance with me.
Interesting one, both
Yeah.
in the story and just musically, because this is like not only the happiest sounding song on the album, but probably the happiest sounding song we've ever done, even though it still ends quite dark.
Yeah, it's certainly a contrast to the darkness of Death of Simpson right before it. But I think it leads in really nicely. So lyrically, it sort of picks up like a month after the events of the Death of Simpson, and we begin to deal a little bit more with some of the relationships that the protagonist has in the house and how they suffer because of his obsession writing his opus. Right, exactly.
Yeah, because my whole vague understanding of Dance With Me is that essentially our protagonist is so busy trying to write the opus that he's missing out on this woman that could be involved in his life. He's being urged to, go dance with her, spend time with her, but he's too caught up working on his work that he's missing out on a lot of other things in life. Basically everything else in his life.
So that's part of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a very good a high level view.
And this will actually answer, I think, some questions that we've gotten about this song in particular when it comes to the lyrics.
Yeah.
How many players are there in this scene, Cole?
Yeah.
Counting the protagonist,
Three?
3.
Right.
There's 3 people. So there's the protagonist. There's Simpson's daughter, who is referenced
In the first verse?
Well, I was gonna say she's referenced in the bridge of the Death of Simpson.
Yeah.
First introduced there.
Right.
And the first verse of Dance With Me is about her, this 6-year-old girl, essentially being in a sort of like a manic state, having not really come to grips with her father's passing, and therefore, sort of really relying on the other people in the house to entertain her. And the protagonist who feels for her and worries about her at the same time can't bring himself to stop obsessing over his opus. And that is, yeah.
I think in my head, because I got a little one now, she's turning 5 here soon. The way I kind of imagine it now that I have a little one is that she no longer has a father figure, and so she's looking to fill that gap in a cerebral capacity. Whether she's aware of it or not. Now that there is a void, I guess you could say one of the closest father figures, the most accessible, would be our main character. And so she's reaching out to him to be like, hey, play with me. Hey, go do stuff with me. And like Cole said, he's having trouble pulling himself away from the work, because he's so obsessed with trying to get the work done that he's like, I'll do it later.
Yeah. But the second verse is not about the same girl.
No.
I realize that has led to some people's confusion. But no, there is a in addition to the people thus far mentioned in the house, there is also a young woman referenced in the lyrics of the second verse of Dance With Me that is of the protagonist's own age, who is similarly like vying for his affections, not because she's like in a manic state and lamenting
Because
the death
she
of Simpson.
thinks he's hot, baby.
Exactly.
Let me get some of your time, boy.
So he can acknowledge that he's like, yeah, that would be great, and I can see myself being interested in that in sort of another. Yeah.
Well, we're going to post this on OnlyFans, I guess now. That's where it's going.
But I mean, basically, the end result is the same. That he's still too focused. He's still too obsessed. He can't even sort of give himself the enjoyment of like a relationship, essentially. So, but like y'all know what happens by the end of the song, or
Oh, yeah.
So break it down, James. What happens at the end of the song that if the listener isn't paying attention might actually miss?
So at the end of the song, both girls disappear.
yeah, short and sweet.
I was trying to think of something funny, but it didn't come to me.
Now there is a
Two
like
girls
a-
dying is pretty funny if you think of it.
Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Woof.
I can't help it.
There is a brief moment during the bridge where it's like the protagonist kind of potentially sees like a way for he says they maybe they could pull me out, right? He sort of acknowledges it for a second.
That maybe my obsession's getting a little overboard.
This is good
Maybe I
foreshadowing.
should go spend some time, but
Yeah, but ultimately it's too late. And we were sort of intentionally vague about what does in fact happen to the two girls. Like, at least just sort of according to the lyrics, they go outside and they disappear, they fade. One interpretation that I've seen both from listeners and also I've thought of this myself is that could be seen as just a poetic way of saying they were hit by a car or something because they walked out into the street, whatever. But honestly, what the truth is doesn't matter all that much because it's also it's one of the first signs that because of his obsession, the protagonist is beginning to lose his grip on what is actually happening.
something that I had once thought, looking at it from an abstract way, that I'm surprised no one ever said, is I always thought one of the explanations could have been they literally were just walking out of his life.
They walked out of his bubble, his little bubble that
That's good.
surrounds the
I
house
like that.
That's very good.
in the album artwork.
Yeah.
That's how I always saw
Which,
it.
of course, by that point in the album, you would have no idea, like, that's a thing. But
Right.
We
And
gave
I-
you guys
upon,
hints. You
upon
didn't pick up
second
on it?
listen, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah,
Not
we're,
bad.
we're gonna hit that note in a little bit, but that was a nice teaser. I did
Yeah.
enjoy that.
So yeah, the funny thing about it is, like, each of us has different levels of understanding of the story and the lyrics of the album. Each of us has our own, like, little interpretations of small bits. So this conversation is just as much like us finding out how each other feels about the story. Because, like, I first brought the story to the band back in 2016 or whatever.
Say it.
What?
It came to you.
Oh, yes, it
Say
did. The original idea did come to me in a dream,
Meme it.
very biblically.
Meme it.
Yes, I'm already bald, so you could. There's the blue Dr. Manhattan. It came to me in a dream thing, but yeah, it was during that year or whatever. I was getting very little sleep, and so when I did sleep, I was having these very, like, vivid dreams, and that's where the concept came from. I woke up one night and sort of typed out very basic outline of it on my phone, and then approached the guys and was like, "Hey, we're talking about making a concept album. Here's a concept. If you don't want to use it, I'll do a solo album with it." Or something.
You don't
To
wanna
which
use it?
we
Screw
promptly
you guys.
responded with, "Yep,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
here we go."
So, but, you know, at the same time, even if I brought the original story idea, like, I did not write all of the lyrics, and a lot of the interpretation, like everyone's sort of bringing their own interpretation to it.
I believe the final form isn't exactly like the dream. Like there were definitely some tweaks.
Yeah.
Which may come up later on in the conversation, but to keep this thing moving along at a clip.
Shall we move on to Tougher Love?
We worry constantly.
Tougher Love.
Probably the most underrated track on the album.
I do love it.
I love this song.
I do love it. It's the least metal, I think, on the whole record.
I mean, it's the most metal. Come on. It's the heaviest song on the album.
Totally.
A lot of breakdowns.
Balls to the wall.
China hits.
Phil, I'll let you take this one.
All right, so Tougher Love is actually the moment where if you missed what happened at the end of Dance With Me, it's kind of corroborated and confirmed in part of what's happening in Tougher Love. It's so named because this is the moment where our protagonist's parents basically have an intervention with him. They pull him aside, at least that's how I envision it.
Yeah.
Is they pull him off. They're just the three of them in a room, and everybody's had that scolding, that firm talking to, the I'm disappointed in you conversation from their parents, and that's kind of the vibe that I got from this, except it's a little more intense, right? There's a little more fear, there's a little more concern, it's more troubling. And what they're saying is like, listen, guy, you've been stuck in this rut for so long that I think you're beginning to miss what's happening here. Simpson's gone, the girls are gone, and we still have no idea what's going on here.
Yeah.
Are you not utterly terrified? Because we are.
Yeah.
And I'll let Cole jump in from here.
Yeah, it's one of, if not the only song that is not sung from the perspective of the protagonist. And I mean, yeah, that pretty much hits the nail on the head. It's them sort of pleading with him. It's kind of, honestly, it's kind of the last chance for him to sort of snap out of it, to realize that things are going wrong, and to begin to acknowledge the events going on around him and the relationships that he's sort of missing out on. It's not super complicated. It's a short song. It's there to sort of set up. Honestly, the back half of the album is pretty well set up by that song, I think.
Yeah.
I think the crux of the message is the last bit of Tougher Love. It's like, are you not afraid? We're afraid. You're spending so much time on this that you're not seeing what's happening around you. And they give like a judgment call, right? Their perspective at the end of that song is a judgment call. You're wasting your time chasing this dream. You're missing out on what's happening in front of you in the present.
Yeah. We promise it's not just his parents saying a career in music is pointless. You need to go into something like I don't know. You need to go into software engineering or whatever. So that leads to track. Oh, I'm losing count now. Is it 6?
6.
Yeah, track 6. Earworm.
I'm laser focused with no target, shooting blindly in the dark.
Earworm.
Earworm.
Which
It's
is
about a trimmer that makes, or a trimmer like those big worm things from that movie. Like it's
What a
got an ear,
reference.
and then you can't hear anymore.
Was that a Dune reference?
No, that was a
the movie
reference to the movie Tremors.
Oh.
Starring Kevin Bacon.
Which was probably a Dune ripoff.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say.
But
Are
way
we talking
funnier.
like worms that burrow underground?
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
like,
but
they
see,
got
they're
references
cool
too.
because they have like these 3 tongues that are also tinier worms, and they're really gross and veiny.
You should check it out.
Okay. That's not what Earworm is about.
Oh, really?
No, like my interpretation of Earworm would be essentially the character, instead of listening to his parents, like just goes straight into Opus, like working on it, putting all of his effort in there, but he still can't. Like he's always missing something. He can't ever figure out like exactly what's going wrong, why he can't complete his work, and it basically is like him going further down the rabbit hole.
This is where the obsession really takes hold. Like now we're getting like the first person view.
Yeah.
And I think
it.
the story was really written just so James could put Vibroslap in it.
Yeah. Dream.
That's the point.
Put a Vibroslap. Ever since I heard Crazy Train as a little bambino, a little boy.
Oh, and here we've actually
Oh yes.
Smack it!
we've got
So
the actual
we-
one that was used. I'm not going to smack it into a microphone.
Yeah, so
'cause
this
that
one
will clip
we
stuff,
this
but
is actually we got this from Croatia.
No.
It's made of the ancient maple wood of the inner forest of the area.
all right. Smack
Said
it.
to be okay.
There you go. That's the.
Yes. I was trying to give some
that's
backstory
gooder
and
than
interrupted
sex.
it. That's gooder than sex.
So
I think Paul hit the nail on the head with this one.
Yeah.
Honestly, kudos, golf clap.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's this thing in like old like Italian operas. It's sort of considered to be like two types of songs. There's arias and recitative or whatever.
Like in the Godfather movies.
I
Sure.
have no idea.
I'm sure both of those have showed up.
And I'm currently drawing a blank on like which one does what, but one is meant to advance the story in a narrative way, and the other is supposed to give a moment for one of the protagonists to stand there and declare how they feel.
The aria is that.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And that's essentially what this song is. Like everything sort of up to this point has largely been narrative with some like emotional dealings peppered throughout, but this is the first one where or this is the big song on the album where the protagonist is really like, it's pretty much all inward. It's the protagonist talking about essentially his relationship with his songwriting, with his opus, and how he continues
the
to.
best lyrics we have ever written.
Which lyric are you referring to?
Oh,
The puns.
The puns.
Oh, the puns.
yeah. We're so used to it that we don't even think about it anymore.
I
But
completely forgot.
for the musically inclined, if you're paying attention to the opening lyrics, they're all theory references, music theory references.
Yeah, it's all music puns, which is wonderful.
Well, shall we read them off real quick? Just kind of highlight this.
Sure.
Sure, why not?
It may sound minor, but I know that it's major.
Referring to key signatures.
It may look like a simple complex, but it's compounded in nature.
Time signatures
When it's the root
of a chord. Yeah.
of every movement, it's the motive in my steps,
Movement was intentional.
intervals and stuff. You bet until it gets resolved,
Haha.
I cannot reach a state of rest.
The resolution of a particular progression, like the 1-4-5, or like certain cadences. Typically, a cadence will end in a resolution, and rest being the actual note, or lack thereof, I should say, when you're.
Yeah. So I guess that's a better explanation for like those of our listeners who are not musically inclined. Hopefully the musically inclined will have picked up on those. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was just a fun time when we were writing that. Was just like,
How many?
hey, what if the entire first verse of this song was all music puns?
Which, if you don't know us by now, like maybe we haven't given off the persona yet, we're a bunch of goobers. We like having a good time. And even if we take our music very seriously, like we want to put out a quality product of stuff that we really want to listen to, that doesn't mean it's off limits to some stuff that we also find humorous. AKA music puns, AKA Vibroslap,
yeah.
Yeah.
AKA the Whataburger auto-tuned. Ding, ding, ding.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. We'll have to cover that some other time. The one thing I want to touch on with Earworm, because I think we're going to cut this video and we're going to move on to part 3. But before we move on, the thing I want to touch on with Earworm is people paying attention will notice that it goes from a song where he's being implored by his parents, like, hey, wake up, pay attention. And he is so consumed by his obsession, it's like nothing sticks. Yeah. There is an immediate cut to me, and my obsession with the... And by my, I mean the characters. The main character's obsession with, I can't get this song on paper. And that's what the whole track is about. No matter how he tries to capture or quantify or, utilize what is in his head, it just keeps eluding him. It turns into gunk. He's got, I imagine, like a mountain of paper balls, thrown in the trash can, behind him.
Yeah.
A whiteboard with a whole bunch of like chord progressions all scribbled with a bunch of arrows pointing to this, but he can't seem to put any of them together.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think for me, it really sticks out how in one ear and out the other the previous song goes.
Pretty much. I mean, you notice none of the lyrics make reference to any of the other people in the house. Like by that point, he's pretty in the weeds about it.
And I think that segues really nicely into the next track because he does reference that.
Yeah, it's true. So you'll have to check that out in the next part. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
See you next time.
Ta-ta.